Hello folks, this is Arikast, and here we are at Sea of Flames. This may not look like Sea of Flames that you're used to. You know, what's up with this? There's water everywhere, there's trees, grass. Alright, so this is right under the Raid Shadow Citadel. We went ahead and drained all of the lava, added a whole bunch of water, and smoothed out all of the ground. If you remember, this area was extremely pockmarked and hard to travel on. So what we did is we added dirt and smoothed out all of the ground. So it's easy to walk on and it looks a lot better. What I did after I was done with the map is I went around and planted some grass here and there. And it, of course, spread around and covered over everything. So we also have some trees here that grew. Oh, well, I grew. So we have some roots spreading out here, some leaves hanging down, some branches, and big branches heading off to the side and stuff. You'll notice some of these leaves are actually from the lighter wood trees. I did that to just add some character to it, add some, not necessarily depth, but some variance. That makes it look a little more real, a little more natural. You notice we also have a horse. I was not expecting that horse. I was expecting pigs, and I think we've got a cow over there, and some sheep over in the distance. There we go. But I was not expecting this horse. So it made me actually really happy to see it when it came up, because like I said, it was not expected at all, and it was one of the first animals to pop up down here. Besides the bats, of course, they were already here. But we've got these trees over here as well, some little roots hanging out in the water. One of them is hanging down over the side of the cliff over there. And again, just use some random leaf placement to, give it a little more character. Okay, so this bridge. We've got the hardened clay here. We didn't have a lot of choice as to colors because there aren't a lot of colors in this map. And that's, by design, because you don't want to be able to just dye wool and stick it on the monument. And of course, that's why there's not normally grass, because you have sheep. But, that makes it more interesting. And I like this. I think that's blue and white, and of course the glowstone in the middle. So, and we'll talk about these pillars in just a moment, the bridge pillars, but we've also got these pillars inside. Now, what this area reminded me of, and I mentioned this in a past video, is an area that's protected, that's, that needs to be protected because it has so much coal and iron. And that citadel up there and long staircase to get down here, that's how it's protected. The citadel is meant to keep this area safe. So what I wanted to do with this area was to make it also an area that has the only water in the map. Well, there is the area over by the monument, but it's, kind of this nasty area that has soul sand and corruption of different sorts. So I wanted to make this place kind of like an oasis that also had all these, ores and stuff. And a few animals. Like I said, I wasn't expecting the horse. That's awesome. But, so, the civilization that built this place built these pillars to hold up the cavern in case of, any kind of natural disaster, earthquakes, things like that. So we've got these pillars, and then have the idea that they built this more natural looking pillar around it, kind of as a facade. So, we've got this big pillar around it, which I actually had to enlarge the original pillar to encompass these. And originally I also had these enclosed in their own separate pockets. But then when I opened it up, I thought that this looks a whole lot better being able to see all of them I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely utilitarian. There's not a lot of fancy stuff here. We've got clay, and we've got these smooth stone blocks and lava, of course. But I think the lighting effect makes it look really cool. So, but that's what this area down here is. It's not supposed to be super fancy. It's just supposed to be a way to recognize that the area is important, basically. And to that end, we also have this burial chamber over here. We've got some coffins down there in the bottom. I actually don't have an ender pearl on me, so I can't get out. But you're not really missing anything because there's just chests with a slab over them over there. And I love the look of the lava underwater. That's always been one of my favorite lighting techniques. But yeah. So let's go ahead and jump down here and we'll talk about these pillars. Okay, so obviously these are not going to appear in the natural world like this. That's just not the way that gravity and physics work. You can't have a bridge that's held up by water in this fashion. Of course, you can have like pontoon bridges, things like that are temporary, but of course that's not what we're talking about here. So, but that's the cool thing about Minecraft. So we can have these bridges that look like they're actually being held up by solid but flowing water. And I think that's a really awesome thing that we can do here. We could, change it over lava, things like that, but have a fluid look like it's a support of some kind. Originally, I did go with a more traditional bracing system that you would see on, bridges that are in the real world. But the problem is, this bridge is too short to make it look really nice and fancy. And this bridge over here, I had it looking a little fancier, but because it is a longer bridge, it's a lot longer bridge than this one over here, but it's still, these bridges are so low to the ground that I wasn't really happy with it. So I started experimenting with some, smaller, more simple looks, and I came up with these. And yeah, I'm sure they've, been done by people before, but I really like them. And you'll notice also that we've got these over here, which are completely different from these over here. This bridge is actually wider than this one. Doesn't really look like it, but trust me, it is. Actually, no, it's not wider. This bridge is an even number, and this bridge is an odd number. That was what was up with that. Okay, so we've got two different types of pillars here. So we have these larger pillars that are 3 wide, and these smaller ones which are just 1 by 1. Okay, the reason I had to do that, or I didn't have to do it, but I decided to do that, was because originally I had these larger pillars in here to begin with, and just all of them being exactly the same. Well, if you have 5 pillars that look exactly the same that are right next to each other, it's not going to look that good because they are in such close proximity. All you see is a repeating pattern, and that pattern just doesn't look very good. So what I did is, and also you can't have these smaller pillars because let's face it, these small pillars would be way too small to hold up a bridge like this because the bridge is a lot larger than it looks like these pillars could support. So what I did was I decided to alternate the large and small pillars, and I think that gives it more character, and the variance definitely makes it look a whole lot better. So yeah, so we've got these. I think they look pretty awesome. I do love this hardened clay. It adds a lot more because I've never really liked the wool texture that much. So I think this is a really good alternative, and I like very much that they did that. Let's see, we've got some roots hanging off here, and these are the ones I was talking about that are hanging over the cliff. Yeah, you see, this is the area that was under the lava. So this is what the ground looked like before I smoothed it out in the other areas. But yeah, so we've got, let's go back over here. Love that horse. So yeah, and also I did have these all as smooth stone brick, but I came in and added all these cracked bricks and mossy stone bricks, and I think it just gives it more character. The better, you know, you add, the more variance that you add up to a point, the better it looks. Because if you have just one solid material, it is not going to look very good. So, yeah. So we've still got the train station. We are about halfway through that. We've still got one of the walls to do, and we've got to drop it down a couple blocks and add in our decorations for the interior design. So what I'm going to do afterwards is I've got a mostly glass roof that I want to take out the roof that's above it at the moment and drop all of that surface lava down over the train station. So I think it's going to look really cool when I get done with it. But, well, for you, it'll only be a few moments until I get there and have all of it done. But I'm sure it'll be several hours before I actually get done with it. So the next thing that you should be seeing in the video is us entering that area, and I will talk about the design of that. So until then, I will be right back. Okay, guys. So you see that we are back here and not at the train station. Okay, so there's a good reason for that. While I was sitting there talking to you about that wall, I was sitting there saying to myself, you know, this wall is absolutely horrible. I was talking to you about variance and what it can do for you, and I was sitting there next to a flat wall. So, you know, I kind of felt like an idiot. The wall is meant to be a retaining wall. It isn't meant to be a wall that holds back forces or anything like that. So the fact that it was flat wasn't such a big deal, but it felt horrible to me. So I added these two pillars in, and that wasn't actually my original intent. I meant to put, you know, smaller pillars in the wall itself to give it some accent. But instead, I ended up with these monstrosities. I'm okay with them. They're fine. They work kind of like those, but I liked having the water and the lava just to accentuate the fact that this area is a water area. It's very, you know, naturey. It's very natural. There's trees, there's water, there's grass. And outside, the map is filled with lava. So that's why I had both the lava and the fire. Ooh, thunder. Goodness. Okay. So, and I added a bit of grass. Goodness gracious. Okay. So, and I added some stairs on the top of the wall. The wall I had left to work with after I built these pillars wasn't really enough to do much with. So I just added those for just a little bit of character. But yeah, so I guess we're just going to go back to our original plan, which is to show up and finish the train station. So for now, I will see you in a bit. Alrighty folks, so here we are back at the train station, which is obviously incomplete. We have just returned from Raid Shadow Citadel. Put myself on the spot and trying to remember the name. And I wanted to point out a few things before we drown this area. And I finish it off, of course. So, right now, you notice this wall is still missing, so we have to do that. And we have these two ends that I need to complete. The pumpkins here are here for spacing. We have 3 blocks in between, so it's every 4 blocks. The torches are what I usually use, but when I'm up above an area and I need to look down and, you know, be able to pace myself, I use usually glowstone, but glowstone is really expensive in this case. So I've been using pumpkins. They're very noticeable. They're bright orange and they give off light. So I think they work really well. Might look a little silly, but the creeper faces. But yeah. So we need to finish this all off. We need to drop this down because these pillars feel too short to me. They need to be a bit taller. I couldn't go up any further, but I can go down. So I can't go down very far, I don't think, but that should work. So I need to add more height to this and make it feel a little bit more grand. So I want to talk about these areas right here. Okay, so I was creating these domes and I've found myself moving on to the second one and looking back at this one to find out the pattern, and I couldn't tell what the pattern was. I couldn't tell because of course it's glass, and when you're looking through it, you know, it's hard to tell. You've got these lines all over the place. Okay, where do I put my glass? So what I did was I added these half slabs underneath so I could tell, you know, so I could see the depths of which pane goes where. But when I started looking at it, and I will remove the glowstone up there. When I started looking at it, I was like, you know what? This looks pretty cool. Because when the lava rains down on it, you'll be able to see the lava resting on top of the panes and beside the panes. And it'll give some interesting lighting effects, I think. So, that one's missing. I need to put that. So I guess it's a good thing I did this. Need a half slab there. Alright, so I think that'll be pretty awesome because without this, you have a glass surface that is fairly plain. You'll have these struts going up and over, you know, the corners, and you'll have a few of these braces here, but that's it. And just like a normal wall, a window shouldn't be just a solid, flat, singular surface. Because, you know, with smaller windows, that's fine. But with a very long and large window, you need... I unintentionally pointed at that, but that's another case. You need to give it some character. Even if it's looking outside and the landscape gives the texture, it's still just a flat surface. And you need to have some kind of support, some kind of structure within it or behind it to be able to give it depth. And even though this does have depth, with just the plain glass, you couldn't tell exactly where and what that depth was. So this accentuates exactly where the panes are. And like I mentioned before, I think it's going to add some awesome lighting effects. So for now, I am going to get back to work on this. And I will see you guys in just a little bit. And we'll cut to the finished product. So I'm going to work on some interior decorating, finish these sides off, this long side and the ends. And we'll be right back with you. Alrighty everyone. So here we are in the completed station. The inside is kind of plain because that's just the way that the stations tend to work. They tend to be wide open areas and not a lot of decoration, stuff like that. Typically. And some of them are super fancy, but this one's going to go more the normal route. With this carpet color, I do like it, but it kind of reminds me of, is it Liechtenstein? I can't remember. Or we could change it to yellow and, you know, make the Swedes happy. So I just wanted to show off this area a little bit before I drench it in lava, because it's going to look quite different after I do so. So in the meantime, yeah, So this is the area, the train station, pre roof removal. Alright, well, I'll be back in a few moments. Okay, folks, so this is the end. We are going to talk about this build just a little bit more in detail, and then we'll place the wools on the Victory Monument. So this area right here, I wanted to put something. It started out being trees, but the area isn't tall enough to make very detailed trees. So I ended up adding some fountains, but again, the area is still pretty small. So I've got these, I've got a hole, whoop, it sucked me in. I've got a hole above the glowstone that spills water out, and these slabs direct the water to the corners. So I think they're, you know, considering the room that we had, I think they're alright. And of course we've got some stairs here creating some depth, which I think is nice. So let's go ahead and go in here. Oh, and the red and blue is in fact Liechtenstein. And of course, you replace the red with the yellow and you have Sweden. Alright, so as far as the lava goes, it's a little too bright for me, to be perfectly honest, but I think it turned out okay. I liked the darkness that was in here earlier, and of course I knew it was, you know, it's lava, it's gonna light it up. But it's a little too bright for my taste. You know, there's not, I like these areas down here, they were darker because they don't have light. This red stripe down here has pumpkins underneath it, so it was supposed to add, you know, it was supposed to direct your eyes to the middle of the room. But with all the brightness, it doesn't do that anymore, which I find kind of disappointing, to be perfectly honest. We do have some lava dripping, but that didn't really bother me too much. It's not all over the place. If it was all over the place, that'd be kind of annoying, but it's not. So, of course, we have the dip down here that adds depth to it, and you'll find me talking about depth quite an awful lot. And it's something that is extremely important. For example, here, I originally did not have this back row that has the glass on it. Originally, the glass was along the stairs, and it lines up nicely to where the glass is on the edge in the corner right here of the stair. But even though this does go back half a block, the surface ends up looking extremely flat. So what I did was I added an extra row and moved the glass back a block. It's very simple. There's, you know, on the surface it doesn't seem like there would be a lot of difference, but kicking it back a block makes it look so much better. And the same with adding this row right here that comes out and lines up with the columns a bit, and then the step back another block. By doing that, it adds a lot of character to where there was just very minimal amount of depth to it at all, because this row wasn't here and the glass was right here, so it was, you know, essentially just a straight wall with stairs that kicked it back only a half a block or even a quarter of a block, considering this row right here is a full block and this is half a block right here. Alright, so and the same thing goes with these right here. I ended up moving, they were originally on this layer right here, these windows, the glass panes, but moving them back makes it look a whole lot better. And actually this whole area was front one, and it lined up with the column, but by adding the obsidian it breaks up the color, the gray, to where, you know, this was all gray, but adding this darker color breaks it up, and then moving it back again adds depth. Alright, so, and I've already mentioned these little domes here. And I did sort of the same thing here. Arced it up a bit. But with these, I think they turned out pretty well. Again, a little too bright for me, but also again, I think it looks alright. And to do it over again, to get rid of all of this lava, no thank you. Alright, so... looks like I missed a row. Alright, well, oh well. Alright, so we've got these here. Just some water and glowstone. Nothing much. The spiral pattern, though, is something that I like to include because I think it's a pretty cool pattern, to be perfectly honest. Well, I think it's kind of fun just to mix it up a bit because usually Minecraft's all about lines, and even when you add depth and stuff, it's still about lines, to be perfectly honest. So let's add a little more character. And of course we have our little crafting room, or enchanting and potions, and some water there, and the anvil of course. But we've already really gone over all of this in earlier episodes, but I just wanted to come back in here and take a last look. This is going to be our final episode. We have all of the wool on our bar here, as you can see, and of course the gold block. So let's go ahead and head out there and put these on the victory monument. Like I should have some grand music playing or something. Alright, so we have the green wool, the red wool, black, and finally the gold block. So let's take a step back and look. Oh, and also, I kind of liked how this was almost a continuation of the red carpet to where it flows into being the red lava. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And I did replace the netherrack with obsidian just because I don't really like the netherrack texture. So, just preference. Alright, so there we are. That is the completed monument for Sea of Flame 2. And for the next series, originally I had planned on doing the maps in order, but I've kind of decided that I want to switch it up a bit and kind of jump around and play one of the newer ones just to add some of the newer mechanics that Vechs has included in his maps, because the first ones are pretty old. But I do want to cover all of them, all the first ones, the early ones, because I don't think they get enough attention. Because even though they are older maps and they don't include a lot of the newer stuff, they are still very good maps. So I would like to go ahead and jump to something a little newer, and then we'll come back to something a little older. As far as... Thought I heard somebody walking. Huh. Okay. Well, as far as which map it's going to be, I'm not really sure. I want to do Legendary, to be perfectly honest, because it has been a long time, same as this map. It's been a long time since I played that map, and it is by far my favorite map. But it's not necessarily a new map. So, I just did Inferno Mines here recently, so I'm probably not going to do that one. So it may be Spellbound Caves, I'm not sure. But we may do Spellbound Caves and then jump to doing Legendary. But I'll just have to think about it, and we'll just see where the wind takes us. So for now, this is Arikast signing off. This is also the completed monument for Sea of Flame 2. So I hope you all have a wonderful day.